Oh,
This is the Rockies Now podcast. I'm Steven. Right with me is Adam and Tom. Adam, welcome back. It's been a while. How you doing, big dog?
I'm good. Thank you, guys. It's good to be back. Work was insane to end the year, so sorry I was gone for a while. And I just did the Broncos Bills preview podcast for you guys, and hope you all enjoy that.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, check Adam out at Broncosaurus. We've been doing pretty well over there. We're growing. We're excited about that. And so stay tuned for some more Broncos content over there. Meanwhile, let's talk about the Rockies. Not really much to talk about. The Rockies have been one of the more quieter teams in baseball this offseason. Not necessarily the greatest thing, but in a rebuild year, hey, what the heck, right? So to start off tonight, I really want to say our thoughts and prayers go out to the people in California with those wildfires. If you live in that area, stay safe. We're praying for you and stay safe out there. All right. So we're thinking about you for sure. But yeah, so talking about the Rockies. So today, Tom, you can hand this off here. We had some arbitration news. Not a big surprise. It's really not a big deal. It's really money stuff. It's not like a major deal where, oh, Austin Gomber's coming back. Great. No, it's just they're just agreeing with money. And so Adam, Austin Gomber's coming back, and Tom, why don't you talk about that and talk about Ryan Feltner and who else was back? Ryan Feltner and Justin Lawrence. There we go. So
Justin Lawrence, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the Rockies are in a position, or they're always in a position, right, where the more pitching that they have, the better. And we've seen splashes of brilliance from Gomber at times. So I don't have any issues with him coming back at that number in arbitration, especially given the way that the staff's going to look next year and Cal Quantrill not being here. And I think I've talked to you about this, Steven, when it comes to Lawrence. I mean, he has all the potential in the world to be just an absolute shutdown reliever for the Rockies. And so I'm glad that he's coming back as well. So I think all good things considering where we're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tom?
well, yeah, it was 6 players total. So you had a couple. Austin Gomber was the only Rockies player entering his final year of final year of arbitration. So he will be as we all know, he will be a free agent at the end of the season. He had the highest number. I'm just double checking it on Spotrac. He agreed to $6.35 million. All the others were below. I believe the next highest was 1.5. Actually, sorry, Ryan Feltner was 2.275. So no surprise. Glad that we had we're not going to have any arbitration cases this year. So if anybody wants to know more about that, hit me up on my Twitter /channel, and I'll explain it to you. The arbitration process is not a fun one, especially if you're dealing with certain types of teams, such as the White Sox, who are what's called a file-to-go team. I can explain it to you later. But again, it's no surprise. Glad to have all 6 of those guys back. They are going to serve. You could say even Jimmy Herget. Is it Herget? Yeah, Herget.
Herget.
Yeah, correct. Even he is going to serve somewhat of a big, not like he's not going to be a high leverage guy, but the problem is he is going to serve a serviceable role this year. And as like we've talked about, I don't want to say all hands on deck, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities for anybody, regardless of what your status is going into the season. Because let's face it, hopefully, fingers crossed, just like the 3 of us keep talking about, hopefully this is a year of trying to feel everything out, figure out who's going to be part of the next contending team. And then 2026, fingers crossed, hopefully we can take that step that we're hoping for, even in a division like the NL West.
Yeah. Yeah. And for Austin Gomber, I don't know. I think he was expected in the $5 million range, where they gave him, a little over $6 million. Is that overpaying a little bit? Well, maybe just a tad, but again, you're pitching in Coors Field, and again, Gomber wasn't that bad actually at a different time. I mean, he had the 8-inning game against I know it's the A's, but it was in Oakland. He had multiple starts like that this year, and he wasn't bad. He was like the word I like to use for pitchers that have had overall decent, maybe not great, decent careers in Colorado is serviceable. Gomber's a 4-5 guy in my mind in the rotation. He was okay this past year, so I'm glad he's back. The Rockies, hey, we need pitching, right? So
He made over 25 starts.
there you go, and he's
Reliable. Yep.
yeah, reliable. And fingers crossed, minus 2021 when he got injured in August and had to sit out the rest of the year. But Austin Gomber, man, he's been arguably one of the better Rockies pitchers since he's been here. And I know it's not saying much because it's the Rockies, but you got to like him. And then, of course, Lux 8's pointing out in the comments that Feltner, this past year, people forget he was throwing a perfect game or no hitter in Miami before the Rockies blew that game up, which was horrible. But Ryan Feltner had the best ERA by a starting pitcher in the Rockies rotation this year. And I feel like nobody really talked about that. And this is a guy, by the way, that didn't pitch in AAA whatsoever when he came up here. He's skipped, AAA and went right to the big leagues. And I think, and I've told Tom this many times on the podcast that I like Rockies pitchers that don't have to worry about pitching in Albuquerque, because Albuquerque is, I think, at least 1,000 feet higher than Denver. And I don't think it's great for Rockies pitchers to pitch in a high environment. I know some people say, well, that's good for them to get acquainted to Coors Field. I disagree. I think Hartford is doing a great job out there, and I just like it that way. I don't know, I think a lot of pitchers like it personally for that way, even though it's a major jump from Hartford all the way to Colorado, but that's just me. But yeah, Ryan Feltner, he's back. I think it's great to see him back. No big surprise there. Despite there were some reports saying that the Rockies were potentially listening on Ryan Feltner. Some teams on him as well. But it's great to have him back. And of course, as Adam alluded to, Justin Lawrence, man, he just had a down year. It was just one of those off years. And I feel like 2023, man, he was so good. He was lights out in the bullpen. Could have been an all-star at one point, really. And then this year, nothing went right for Justin. And so our hope is that he has a comeback year, as somebody pointed out in our hot takes post today that we posted on Instagram and leading into that. And by the way, you're going to have to check some of those slides. Some of them are pretty hilarious. So, but hey, we just want to thank all those who are watching or listening. If you're watching on Instagram or Twitter or YouTube, if you follow us on Instagram, thank you so much for sending in your hot takes. But anyways, I want to go into the next segment here, talking about some of our favorite Rockies hot takes from our followers. So I'm gonna start off with Adam, since he hasn't been here in a while. Adam, of course, I know you haven't been here in a while, but if you took a peek at our hot takes from our followers, which one really stood out to you the most? It can be a funny one, it could be a really good one. Which hot take was your favorite?
Well, the funny one obviously was the Nolan Arenado. We're gonna trade all our prospects to get Nolan Arenado back. That would be really bad. So hopefully that does not happen. So yeah, that was the one that made me chuckle a little bit. But my favorite one, the one that I agreed with, and I've talked about this before, is Zach Veen, Rookie of the Year. I love Zach Veen, and the only issue with him, really, in my opinion, that's keeping him from reaching where he can go is staying healthy. And so once we see Zach Veen this year, and it depends on who you ask, right? I think Tom will have some thoughts on when we'll see Zach Veen. But I think I like that one a lot. I would love for that to happen. And Zach Veen is like a heart and soul kind of guy. He will put a lot of juice into this Rockies team, and I look forward to seeing him. I've been looking forward to seeing him for a long time now. So those were my favorite hot takes.
Yeah. For me, I agree with you. But for me, I like and that's why the title of this video of this show is Carson Palmquist over Chase Dollander. We had one that said that Palmquist was going to have a better year than Chase Dollander. And listen, I love Chase Dollander as the next guy, but Carson Palmquist is a guy that I think not a lot of Rockies fans talk about a lot. And I think a lot of people need to know this guy, right? And you look at his history in the minor leagues. He tore it up in Albuquerque before getting called up to, in Hartford before he got called up to Albuquerque. But this guy could be a dangerous pitcher. And I know Adam and we were talking about this a little bit. he looks very similar to Kyle Freeland. The arm slot and everything, even some of the pitches, man. He's not a hard flame throwing guy. It's almost like he's throwing a frisbee. I mean, some of his breaking balls are just like it drops out of nowhere, just loses velocity at the plate, which is what you want at Coors Field. You don't want to throw sliders or fastballs down the middle at Coors Field because those are going to get rocked in a third deck at Coors Field or in the left field bleachers near the scoreboard, right? We don't want that. Now, there are some concerns with Palmquist a little bit, where, he can give up the long ball or give up some knocks, but the promising thing is the guy has soft contact. A lot of people have soft contact against Carson Palmquist. So that's positive. So I like that take. But yeah, I think the one that kind of steals the show for me as the most kind of funny. I'm not sure if this was an actual serious take. I don't think it was, but the Arenado one really just when I saw it, I was like, I got to post this. So, and you know what? It's a pleasure for our followers to see it. Just like for us to see it, it was awesome. So
it was a great laugh either way.
It was. So, hey, us Rockies fans, it's been bleak for the last several years. We need a laugh now and then. And why not choose that Hall of Fame image of Jamal Murray, just making that face to the reporter, man. That was just an all-time thing. I was considering doing the other one of what was the other Nuggets player that was he was on the ground on the court. What was that we traded him just a couple years ago? That weird image. I forget his name, but anyways, I thought those were awesome takes. Tom, what about you?
Well, obviously that strikes a chord in our funny bone, but it kind of could strike, depending what side of what side of the coin you're on, it could strike a bad chord with you because we all know how awful that situation got when Nolan was forced his way out of town. But that's a story for another time. The one that really hit me a little bit was the Bryant playing over 120 games. Mm-hmm. I was the one who made the hot take last year. He played 140, I think it was 45 plus games. And as I said, Bryant, you're dead to me on that one. So sorry, Chris. KB, I wish you the best, and I hope you can at least produce something for the Rockies during the rest of your time here, whether it's 1 year or however many years. But sorry, pal, you're dead to me. But the one that the two that I'm really clinging on to, hoping that they come true and could be somewhat reasonable to obtain. One is we lose less than 100 games. It's feasible. I mean, it can't. Well, let me tell you something. People think I'm nuts thinking in terms of total loss in a season. Take it from this White Sox fan who just watched the White Sox have the worst record in the history of baseball in the modern era. Anything is possible. So this team can. Hey, who knows? We get a hot streak going. We can finish under 100 losses. And the other one is, I really like this one. It's Toglia, McMahon, Doyle, and who was the fourth one? Tovar, thank you. Finished with 25 plus home runs. That is definitely possible. All four of those guys had the power. Heck, two of those guys, I think, maybe even three of them can finish with over 30.
Yeah.
So that I think is something that's definitely going to be achievable. And so, but yeah, then again, we'll see. But those are the ones that I'm looking forward and hoping that those two at least come true for sure in the 2025 season.
Yeah, there was another one. It was basically the same one as the 4+ home runs, 4+ 25 home runs. It was that, but also was it 3 Gold Glovers. So I would assume it would be Brenton Doyle, maybe Michael Toglia and Tovar. I know Michael Toglia, we talked about it before, that he's definitely going to win a Gold Glove eventually. So I think this year it's nice to see that we're seeing a lot of these younger players, and of course today it was made official that Thairo Estrada signed his 1 year with the Rockies, and it's nice to see that Estrada was commenting on Tovar and how he could be a really good leader in the future. So that was really cool to see. And speaking of Estrada, we had one hot take, and we posted about Estrada, hitting 280, 15 plus home runs, I think. I think that's definitely realistic because if you look at the numbers, folks, just type them up on whether it's Baseball Savant or Baseball Reference. The guy can rake at Coors Field. Now, again, we've heard that before. Daniel Murphy, who we signed to that ridiculous 2-year contract in 2019, the people thought he was going to hit like 400, 500 at Coors Field because why? Well, he before that, when he was younger, he had a really good numbers at Coors Field, right? When he was an opposing player. And I mean, he wasn't horrible, but it's just injuries, man. And so you're just hoping that Estrada can stay healthy. Now, fortunately, it's not a multi-year deal. It's just a 1-year deal with a mutual option for 2026. And I mentioned this to somebody on Instagram about a month ago when we signed Estrada. I don't anticipate him to stick out the entire season. That's just my opinion. Now, if he has a really good year, solid year, then yeah, he could stay the entire year. But me thinks that Amador will be ready by at least July or August.
100%.
I really feel like it's more of a Jurickson Profar type of signing to me. It just feels that way. I don't know why. I just felt in my insides that it was just that signing. It was a good signing. Don't get me wrong, but it just feels like it's just more of a holder place for Amador. He got some plate appearances last year. Of course, we remember that. Of course, he wasn't ready. But Amador looked really, really good in the AA playoffs for Hartford. But he has yet to play AAA ball. So I think the Rockies should do the right thing and letting him develop in AAA. Take some more time, because what you don't want to do is to do what you did with Brendan Rodgers, in my opinion. Because if you remember Brendan Rodgers in 2019, the Rockies called him up, in my opinion, a little bit too early.
Way too early.
Way too early. And he was drafted in 2015, if I remember correctly. And listen, 4 years, hey, that's not too bad. But he was the number one Rockies prospect for a while. In my opinion, I mean, listen, he was a great prospect, but injuries have just derailed him quite a bit his entire career. Not like Chris Bryant, but he hasn't become the guy. He never became the guy that Rockies fans wanted or the Rockies wanted. Now, he was a serviceable infielder. He won a Gold Glove. Great. But offensively, we were hoping for like 20 plus, 30 plus home run guy when he was coming up. And he could barely get by with 10 home runs, right? If even that, 8 home runs. So it's unfortunate. And speaking of Rodgers, there's been reports that the Yankees are on Rodgers. And it's funny because it's going to be weird if he does go to the Yankees. He's going to have to shave off all that hair and the beard, and it's going to look just horrible. I don't know. He could look great. I don't know. Yankees fans, if you get him, hey, I don't know. It's first off, it's a stupid rule that the Yankees have that you have to shave everything off. But I don't know. It's just my opinion. But it's going to look weird, man. It would look even weirder to see Charlie Blackmon as a Yankee. But fortunately, we don't have to worry about that.
It would look even weirder. It would look even weirder if Charlie Blackmon had to do that.
Yeah. And that era of Charlie Blackmon had no aura whatsoever.
No, not at all. Just replacing Dexter Fowler, of course. But going back to Thairo Estrada, he brings a lot of value defensively to the Rockies. He can play a lot of different positions. If you look at his Baseball Savant page, his range is in the 94th percentile, and his fielding run value is in the 84th percentile. But his whiff rate offensively is in the 13th percentile. So that's not – he's not – I mean, he's going to hit for power, I think, Steven. I think 15 to 20 home runs is feasible if he plays the whole season in Colorado. But I wouldn't expect him to be like the plate discipline guru up there for the Rockies, which is something that they badly need. We all know that watching the Rockies offense the last few years. But I think the Rockies offense could be fun to watch, like they were talking about in the hot takes. If we get 25 or even 20 from all those guys and you add Estrada and you call up on Amador and he's, it could be at least entertaining enough to watch the Rockies. And I think, if they lose under 100 games, that's a step in the right direction. If we only lose 90 games instead of 100, that's a win, man. That's a 10-game improvement. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then you get another 10-game improvement after that. And then after that, we take down the Dodgers. But that's for a later day.
I mean, losing only, and not this, it sounds weird that we're talking about how excited we'd be if this team lost 90 games and some other of these contenders are on base saying, are you guys stupid? I said, well, look at what we've had to endure over the last 7 years and look at the division we play in, for Christ's sake. Yeah. I mean, come on. But the bottom line is, what was I going to say? If you look at how, also one more key stat I wanted to mention, Feltner and Gomber led the team in starts in 2024. Both had 30. So that's a big thing coming back. When you have that durability, that's going to be critical, especially when it comes to eating up innings on a young-ish pitching staff. So we'll have to wait and see. But the point is, hell, I remember it makes me think back in 2019 when the 2019 White Sox went 72 and 89. That was considered a big step in the right direction, and that is what inspired confidence in the front office to make a big spending spree. So if the Rockies can do that, that could inspire this front office to do the same thing, because let's face it, Dick Monfort's not afraid to open the checkbook. He just has to have that confidence inspired in him to do so. And looking at next year's free agent class, there's going to be some good ones for us to possibly dab into, depending what positions or holes we need to fill in terms of position wise, and how many pitchers we need to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Denver Broncos now, because the Broncos are heading in that era to where they won't have to worry about paying Russell Wilson. Thank goodness, right? And now they can start getting free agents, right? And now they're in the competition window where they're going to the playoffs, right? And when that time comes for the Rockies, you're going to have money to spend for free agents. Now, it won't be pitchers, right? It's going to be hitters, right? And so, but the thing is, where they're going to hitters going to play, and that's the exciting thing about the prospects. And you just hope that the Rockies don't go out and do another Ian Desmond or Chris Bryant, for crying out loud. But the positive thing is that I don't think there would be any room for free agent hitters. And I know that sounds bad, but I think it's a good thing, because hey, we need prospects. We need the prospects to play. And I will mention this. So I was looking at I forget, was it Baseball Reference or was it StatMuse? But I forget where it was. But somebody said or had Sam Hilliard as the starting right fielder for the Rockies on opening day in 2025, which I disagree with. Why not Jordan Beck? Jordan Beck should be the starting right fielder.
I think it was StatMuse.
StatMuse, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I like StatMuse, but there are some things I disagree with. And for instance, they had on the bench, I think it was Farmer. It might have been Owen Miller on there as well, which I disagree with. Owen Miller is not going to be in the big leagues unless if he just tears it up in spring training. Owen Miller, not even that. Owen Miller is just he's not the guy that you want to be.
He's also not even on the fourth. He's not currently
on the 40 man. Yeah,
he's not even currently on.
Aaron Schunk, I think, was on there, and then catching was Hunter Goodman, not Drew Romo, which I don't know. I feel like Romo will be on there. Same thing with Goodman.
I think, real quick comment, I think what some of these outlets that are not familiar like we are with this team, I think what they'll do is they'll fill it in based on total number of bats in the prior seasons. I think that's why you're seeing that.
Yeah. So yeah.
But again, we all know what is most likely to happen anyway.
Lux knows what he's talking about. I know this. I know this is a Rockies podcast, but yes, since it's postseason week for the Broncos, gotta believe. So,
and I would like to say too, I'm looking at RotoChamp. Their projected lineup has Chris Bryant hitting fourth, which is not going to happen. And they have Stallings catching, and they do have Hilliard in one of the outfield spots. I don't think that's going to happen with Hilliard. He was solid, right, when he played last year for the Rockies in his little return. But his ceiling is a fourth outfielder, and that's it.
Barring injuries, we know what's going to happen. So
yeah, for sure.
Not going to there.
Yeah, I mean Hilliard. I don't know. It would be cool to see like a turnaround for Hilliard to where he's kind of like that Christian Walker type of guy, where Christian Walker, nobody remembered him when he was with the Orioles, and then when he came to Arizona, just lit everything up. Now, I think it's a little bit too late, unfortunately, for Sam, because now he's in his 30s. I believe he's like 30 or 31. But, he got his opportunity with the Braves for a little bit, but even the Braves, they got rid of him after a little short period of time. So we'll see from Sam. Sam is a serviceable bench player,
absolutely.
Right, and he's great. I mean, it's not like he's horrible. He does strike out a little bit, but this year, actually, I noticed that his strikeouts were a little bit lower than previous years, which is good to see, right? And I think it's a lot of his maturity at the plate and actually getting playing time, because again, Chris Bryant was out for the entire season basically, so that got to him in the
no.
But But anyways, for those who are wondering why we're saying no, we're watching a football game, right? Penn State. And
No. I said no, like you don't say. Like Chris Bryant was
Yeah,
out for the
that's what-
season.
at first
Yeah,
I was like,
correct.
what's going on? Was there a play?
Nah, I'm rooting for
No.
our guy Tom.
Oh,
He
okay.
deserves happiness, man.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I was
over.
wondering.
It's over. Notre Dame is going, so now we just gotta wait who their opponent's gonna be.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So there you go. That's just a little fun fact. But anyways, talking about Chris
For our
Bryant.
viewer,
Yeah.
for our viewers, there it is. So
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan, so I'm rooting
Sorry.
for Notre Dame because if we're gonna get beat, we might as well get beat by the best, right? So
Yeah.
but anyway.
But real quick side comment. I think when it comes to Sam Hilliard, he's. I like to give him this for us. He's going to be kind of a Swiss Army knife. And to go to your comment, Steven, I think the fact that he had the experience regular playing time, and also he has more experience. He has a better understanding of Major League Strike Zone, and he knows how sharp breaking balls can be. So I think he is. So and also real quick, his career slash line off the bench as a pinch hitter, not that bad. It's pretty good.
What's his numbers?
Oh, I zeroed it away. I have to look it up again, but it's actually I think it's his OPS I believe is over 750.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Again, we'll do another podcast when that comes up, when we do the position player previews and all that next month, which is, again, still crazy. But I texted the guys this before we started this afternoon, that it's just right now it's so dead in baseball. Of course, we're still waiting to see where Roki's going to sign. Of course, it's going to be the Rockies. Come on. We already know that. And just unless if it's not the Rockies, it's, just not the Dodgers, because they already got Kim like last week from South Korea, that Korean second baseman, which I think there was some deferred money, which I'm not surprised. Who else is surprised at this time, at this moment?
No, nobody.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm kidding.
Surprised.
I'm kidding.
Get out of here. No.
Real quick. Sam Hilliard's OPS as a pinch hitter in 37 career plate appearances is actually over 1,000, 1102.
Oh, yeah. And listen, there was a couple times where he delivered the game-tying home run this year against Boston, I think in July, and then against the Cubs when the Cubs were in Coors Field. So he's pretty clutch.
Well, Sorry,
ahead.
Tom.
You
were talking about his K rate going down, and it did go down.
Yeah,
from 42.3% to 35.4%. That's insane.
Improvement.
But it is improvement.
Yeah.
That is an awfully high K rate. So hopefully you can get that down, especially if he's going to come off the bench for us. So
yeah,
I couldn't believe when I saw that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I remember when he was used in his first stint with the Rockies. It's kind of he was one of those you could say home run, walk, strikeout guys. Now he's kind of, I think what he's done is he's kind of leveled off his bat path a little bit. So he's trying to swing more for contact and not trying to swing for the fences to kind of back there. Cause I think that's more what he was pegged at as a prospect when he was coming up through the system. But I think now I think he's just grateful for the opportunity, and he understands what pitchers are trying to do to him, which of course get him strike out above the zone. So he's trying to make sure he avoids those high fastballs.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. I think this year could be a step in the right direction if things go right, if players stay healthy. Now, again, barring Chris Bryant, which would be, a big shocker if he got injured, right? I mean, come on,
I personally would be very shocked.
Very shocked.
I mean, who knows with that back? Who knows what's going on, man? Back is it's just for a position player, the back injury is just as bad as Tommy John surgery is for a pitcher, because it can just cripple your season and your career.
Well, and the thing with the Chris Bryant, I know we're trying to cut this thing a little short tonight, but I love that the Rockies opened the wallet and they paid a guy. I love that, but the timing was so incorrect, and obviously the player choice wasn't great either. But you're not. If you're going to sign a player like that, let's not do it to put butts in the seats. Let's do it to supplement our roster, because we're trying to win the division for the first time, that kind of thing. I don't care if you're trying to sign a guy because you want me at the stadium. I want you guys to sign people to supplement a talented young roster so we can win games. You're not going to get me there by bringing in one guy in the wrong period of Rockies baseball. It just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the years where I think most teams that offered Bryant were like 3 to 4, and the Rockies were like the only team that gave him 7 years.
7 years.
Well,
Yeah, I
plus
think.
also, go ahead. Sorry, Steven. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I think it was the Mets and the Phillies and even the Mariners. I think they offered
Mariners were in, yeah.
on them. And Bryce Harper was trying to recruit him over to Philadelphia. And I know the Rockies were interested in Schwarber. So imagine if Schwarber went to the Rockies and Bryant went to the Phillies. So it's just a world we have to live in. But I do want to get to a couple questions here before we end tonight. Max says on Instagram, do you think that we will sign a high leverage reliever or anyone, or is this the offseason ending? I really think that the Rockies have just they're done this offseason, and it's not something to be upset about. I mean, the Rockies now they could still get one of those top free agent market relievers out there. I mean, the market's now starting to warm up, right? There's still a lot of relievers out there. Carlos Estevez, former Rockies, out there. Tanner Scott, his market is still out there. I know it's going to be coming to a close very, very soon. There's still a lot of relievers out there. Now, there's still a possibility the Rockies could get one of those guys because they've been talking about it. But I think Jimmy Herget, he's been one of those guys that just kind of lets me know, hey, that he's our veteran guy. But I'm satisfied with what we've done so far, especially with the guys that we have in the bullpen, like Halverson, Peralta, Vodnik. Those guys, I think, are going to be the anchor to this bullpen for many years to come.
Peralta.
Oh, Peralta's a steal, man. I keep saying that so many times. Peralta was a steal from Pittsburgh in that trade for Jalen Beeks. I didn't like Beeks, and when we got Peralta, man, if you look at his AA numbers for Altoona, dude was almost unhittable. And when I looked at those numbers, I'm like, that's a steal. And look what he did. I don't think Peralta didn't give up his first run until later in the last week or two of the season. Like, that's how good he was. Halverson only gave up like 1 or 2 earned runs, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And that was off of, I think, a home run or something like that. So watch out for the young arms in the bullpen, the young flame throwers in the bullpen. So to answer your question, Max, I think the Rockies are pretty much done. Again, nothing to get upset about. I think it's just where the Rockies are at right now in the rebuild. There's nothing much you can do right now. Now, maybe in the next couple of years, like we talked about tonight, when they hopefully get to that point where they can start spending money, you're going to start seeing moves come in. But for right now, I think we're not going to see any huge splashes, maybe minor league deals at best till spring training. A couple more here. Does Condon start in AA this year? I personally think he should spend a little bit more time in single A. I just feel like, his numbers don't really look that great right now. I know that he was exhausted. I mean, for him to get drafted and play college baseball in Georgia early in the season, Adams, Georgia's team. So I think Condon should definitely just take his time. We're not in a huge rush now. I love Charlie Condon. It'd be awesome if he was starting in the outfield for the Rockies on opening day. But and listen, there's been some comps to him being Wyatt Langford. But listen, Wyatt Langford, I think, was a little bit quickly pushed to the big leagues.
And he was awful last year.
He was pretty not. Again, Adam puts it awful. So why not just take your time? The Rockies already have a plethora of outfielders, right? Yanquiel Fernandez, Zach Veen, who are not even in the big leagues yet, and you already have
Montgomery.
And they already have a stacked outfield already. Like, they have Doyle, they have Nolan Jones, who I think is going to be a comeback player of the year candidate, and then you have Jordan Beck in right field. And I love Jordan Beck. Jordan Beck could be, I think we had somebody comment on Instagram that they think Beck will win the Rookie of the Year. So there could be 3 really good players in the outfield this year. So I'm not in a huge rush to rush Condon. So yes, I think he starts in single A. Does he see AA baseball? Absolutely. I think he will. Just let him start in high A for right now. And then let me get to one more here.
Just real quick, Steven, let's not ruin the face of Rockies baseball for years to come. Let him develop, get him some confidence to start the year. Don't put him in AA and get him destroyed. We don't need that. We can take our time. We're not in a championship window at this time. We don't need to rush him. Yeah. That would be the worst thing the Rockies could do.
And one other comment, don't forget Jeff Hoffman is still out there.
That wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad, but I don't want to relive that memory of Jeff
Hoffman. I know. I'm just for sake of the fact that he's a former Rocky. Just want to remind all folks, he's still out there.
Yeah.
So there's not one but 2 former Rocky relief pitchers still out there.
Yeah.
I'd rather have him than Estevez, personally.
Estevez is a little on the older side, but
Yes.
I think now that the market's starting to settle, you're going to see some of those guys start plucking. And also, just for sake of the discussion, Kenley Jensen's still out there, even though we're not getting him, but still, just he's out there too.
Yeah,
and I think the best real quick comment on the reliever. If we want to acquire a high leverage reliever, I think our best chance next offseason would be to trade. I think we can't hoard prospects. And there was actually, I don't know if you guys saw this, there was a graphic that put out that teams that are more likely to hoard their prospects, the Rockies were on the bottom of that list, a very low percentage. We shouldn't be afraid to hoard these things. Remember, not all these guys are going to make the big leagues. So I mentioned this on a previous episode. The Rockies front office, you got to be bold sometimes. That can include parting with some of these guys that, again, may not even make the big leagues with us or other teams. So if we want to make that push forward, let's be a little bold and make some daring decisions, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as the Mariners and Rockies fan, they're perfect trade partners in that area. The Rockies could go and get maybe a Matt Brash, or because the Mariners don't want to pay anybody. So that would be, he would play at Coors Field, that's for sure.
Except for Julio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Imagine him in Coors Field.
Well, like in terms of the paying comment, they paid him and not many others. So
true. Yeah.
They did extend Luis Castillo though, but then he's in the trade rumors now, so it's starting to circulate. So whatever.
Yeah. So one more comment here. This one comes from Ethan. He says, "Is the team better this year or the same as last year?" So that's a good question because you kind of ask yourself, okay, is the team in a better spot where they were than they were last year? And my opinion is yes. I'm not going to say no. It's not like the Rockies haven't improved because we saw Brenton Doyle, man. We saw Tovar. He's still growing. Toglia is, again, a guy I think people should watch out for. Now, I don't want to praise Toglia a whole lot because, again, he still strikes out. And his batting average does not look good if you look at his batting average. But his strikeout rates, again, was high like Hilliard's, but did come down this year. And a lot has to do with because he got playing time. And listen, the benefit of having Chris Bryant injured is having Michael Toglia play. And we've said this many times that I think that's been a blessing in disguise for this Rockies team, letting Toglia play because they're like Montero. Montero, it's unfortunate, but the Rockies, for a long time, Rockies fans were saying, play Montero. Well, the Rockies did. And it's a good thing that they found out, this year, because it could be a still battle between Montero and Toglia, where now the mantle's off to Toglia, which is great now. So now he has that confidence of like, hey, I'm the first baseman here. So where he doesn't have to worry about, will I be playing first base in a couple weeks where I won't get any playing time or off the bench? No, Michael Toglia, he can now prepare himself as a first baseman, play regular every day, and it just you're in a rhythm. And I think that's good for some of these young prospects and young players. And so, and to answer your question, Ethan, very quickly, I think the team is maybe not by a whole lot, but I think the team is a little bit better than it is right now in the spot than it was last year. Adam, what about you? And then I'll have Tom finish.
Like we were talking about, if they can improve by 10 games, I think that would be immense for the progress of the Rockies. Will that happen? I'm not sure. I think the Rockies, if nothing else, will be more entertaining to watch. They'll be better offensively, in my opinion, with these young guys coming in. At least exciting, something to look forward to, because losing Charlie Blackmon, even though he wasn't like an all-star caliber player at the end of his career, I mean, losing that steady production from the lineup is going to hurt the Rockies. But if you can get a comeback season from Nolan Jones, which we all expect to happen because last year, in my opinion, was a complete aberration. He just started with an injury and just couldn't, get any footing. But it's going to depend on if Beck can improve upon the way he looked when he played a little bit last year. If Amador comes up and tears it up the way he has at the lower levels, and what kind of value Thairo Estrada brings. And the biggest thing, in my opinion, is going to be if Romo is going to be the catcher, what kind of value does he bring behind the plate? Is he going to be able to manage a staff? It's not just about offense. I know he can hit the ball, but can he manage a staff at the major league level? So there's a lot of question marks coming in, but I think it's not anything to worry about. Will they be better? They could be, but we'll have to see. I think it's very possible, Tom.
I would say going into the season, the pedigree of last year's team compared to this team preseason is fairly similar because there's question marks at this, I would say the same amount of spots. To the point is when you do, there is a bit of a less of a veteran look when you lose Jake Cave and Charlie Blackmon, and you also lose Elias Diaz, excuse me. To the thing about Romo, he does have a solid defensive catcher to learn how to manage a pitch or how to properly manage a pitching staff at the major league level. Because again, when you play in the minor leagues, you have a smaller pitching rotation to manage instead of 5. And of course, an entire bullpen. So I think Stallings is a great guy to learn that, how to do that from.
100%, yeah.
He is definitely going to be sitting on more meetings. As far as how they're going to, I would think they're going to ease him into it. They're not just going to give him, okay, you're everyday Stallings, you're the backup. I think it's going to be more, it's not going to be as aggressive in the first half. And if that he is as well, second half, you'll see a little more use of him. But when it comes to the rest of the lineup, the biggest question mark for me is, how is this new look lineup going to look? Because I like the idea of having, let's say, Doyle lead off, followed by Tovar, followed by third is very, I would say for now it's McMahon. Then I personally want to see Toglia bat clean up. I've been harkening to it. That guy has unbelievable power when he gets a hold of one, and you want your most powerful guy batting cleanup. And then I would say, let's go Nojo and down the line. So it's interesting going to be who, because again, the biggest question is, because the leadoff guy is always the spark plug that kickstarts a lineup. No more Charlie Blackmon. Who's going to take that spot? And I think Doyle can do that. And people are thinking, oh, he was our best hitter. Why don't we bat him third? Well, there's a lot of guys you could bat third in this lineup because really you don't have a defined best hitter, let's say, that really can embrace that role. They just got to figure out who that clutch guy is. But anyway, the point is, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to figure out the new look lineup. And then at the same time is with all those veterans leaving, there's going to be a lot more bats available. Who's going to step up and take advantage of those and say, because again, to use the Toglia example, Chris Bryant goes down, Elias Montero gets DFA, Toglia steps up, grabs the bull by the horns and takes full advantage, but now he's the everyday first baseman. Who's going to be that guy, or maybe one or two guys here who step up and take that role? Because again, there's going to be a lot of opportunities to be had.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I really like to talk about one more player, and that's Aaron Schunk, because he ended the year really, really strong. And I think that's why he should be on the opening day roster. And I again, we talked about it maybe before we went live, but some people had Owen Miller on the opening day roster on the bench. I highly disagree. Aaron Schunk, he should be. I mean, you look at his AAA numbers. He was in AAA for a while, and he had pretty solid numbers. Now his ceiling is kind of like Sam Hilliard. He's a bench player. But I really like Aaron Schunk. He has solid defense. I think he made a few really good plays in the infield at second base this past year. But yeah, I mean, he ended the season on a really good note. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers, like he was insanely hot to finish the week. I remember in the St. Louis series at Coors Field, and the Dodger series even, he did okay. So yeah, I mean, let Aaron Schunk get some playing time, because that's the whole point of it, right? You never know. I mean, heck, you look at Arenado. Arenado wasn't even a top prospect coming out of Colorado, and look what happened. Arenado played every single day at third base, and look what happened. He's arguably the greatest third baseman in this era, in the last several decades, maybe even more. I mean, arguably one of the greatest third basemen of all time, right? And that's what the Rockies should be doing, and that's what they've been doing. I feel like they finally started to realize, hey, maybe actually we should start our players, start the young guys, right? So I'm excited for Aaron Schunk. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next few weeks. Again, spring training opens up in about a month. Pitchers and catchers report is coming up. There's going to be a lot of question marks, as we said tonight, about the Rockies heading into this year. There's some optimism. And of course, we know that a lot of the optimism goes away by May and June. But hey, there's always a place to where, hey, maybe the Rockies can turn this thing around and maybe have a little bit of hope as we head into the 2025 season. So that's something.
The Broncos were picked to win 5 games.
Hey, there you go.
Just putting it out there.
And the roster.
They're in the division with the best too. They're with the Dodgers of the NFL. So
yeah, weren't the Broncos rated the worst roster in the NFL? 32nd.
They were.
That's a joke.
So why not?
I mean, don't forget. Remember, we all know how hard it is to repeat. Who knows? The Dodgers can have a little bit of quite a fall off. You never know.
There you go.
Yeah, and their farm system, I don't get why their farm system is praised so much. Their farm system is not that good.
I think the
Sorry,
best
LA.
one's the Red Sox.
Yeah, and I know Cleveland has a really good farm system. Cleveland really, really good. Of course, Bazana at like number one.
Mm-hmm.
But if you looked at the pipeline ratings for the farm system, I'm like, how in the world are they so high? Like the Padres were a little bit higher than I thought they would be, because don't they trade all their prospects away for like Juan Soto and Luis Ariz and Michael King, and who might not even be coming back to the Padres this year? So it's just, I don't get why some of those rankings are the way they are, but we'll see.
But the Rockies are on the right path, and I got a little bit of kickback from people today when I said that Thairo Estrada, given where the Rockies are at, is a good signing because of the influx of talent that's coming in the next 1 to 3 years. And sometimes we get people who are a little jaded, I guess is the way I'll put it, saying that, oh, we're nowhere near competing and we don't have any talent. And it's just like, well, with all due respect, you don't really know what you're talking about, because
people said people said the same thing before 2017, 2018. Oh, we had no talent.
Exactly.
We couldn't even win with Nolan Arenado, Tulo, Trevor Story's first year. We were like a 71 and 90 like one team in 2016 or whatever it was, or it was in the 70s. It was not a great year. And here we had Nolan Arenado, we had Charlie Blackmon coming up in here. What turned around was the pitching, and you just you got to have both click at the same time, and it's hard to do, but it's possible. And so even with a great roster, a team can't make the play. I mean, 2019, the Rockies had a much, much better roster than we do have right now, and they were a 71 and 91 win team. Right.
Their hope is 70 and 92. I'm just saying all hope is not lost.
Yeah.
They have a direction. They're not the San Francisco Giants who sign 43-year-old guys for no reason. So
hey, fourth place is a possibility.
Let the couch GMs have their opinions.
No doubt.
Couch potatoes.
I call them the couch GMs because they sit on their couch thinking they could run a baseball team from their couch. The reality is a lot more complicated than that. And real quick, Wild the Innocent, All-Star David Dahl, that was not until 2019.
David Dahl, man. Yeah, that run, man. David was so good, especially at the end of 2018 when they had those 7 straight games of home runs, which helped the Rockies get in the playoffs. That was massive, and he just fell off. Well, I would say fall off, but he had a good 2019.
Couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, well, the most infamous moment of his career when he dropped that fly ball in shallow right field during the 2018 wildcard game. That was a big deer in the headline moment. But luckily we got the out on the next play, so that didn't come back to bite us. But my favorite Dahl moment was when, not even with the Rockies, it was when he last season in Philadelphia, when he had his first home run. I think in 4-ish years, and I believe it was a go-ahead home run that they went on to win the game. So it's good to see that he caught on for how much longer he's remains in pro baseball, and that includes majors and minors. He's just another unfortunate prospect, top tier prospect that got derailed his career by injuries. And real quick, back up to not signing anybody. What are people expecting us to sign? Gleyber Torres to play second base as opposed to Thairo Estrada? It's not happening. Come on. But at the same time, I think Gleyber Torres would be an overrated signing for us because we'd be overpaying for him.
There's one team in baseball that has spent $0 this offseason.
Mariners.
Nope, it's not the Mariners.
Oh, it isn't?
Miami Marlins. Marlins.
Marlins have spent $0 this offseason.
Who have the Mariners paid?
It was
Austin Shenton. Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, because we're including both minors and majors in there, Adam. So
it's probably Austin Shenton. Oh yeah.
But
being a Rockies and Mariners.
Well,
fan,
I will say Rockies fans. Well, I will say it's Rockies fans. We could be in Miami with that sort of situation, but I got to get props to the Oakland A's here. I know people are saying. First of all, the Severino sign, that was an overpay, but at the same time, Brent Rooker, good for him, man.
Yeah,
he is a guy who has been a journeyman, and they see him get that extension that is well earned. So honestly, on the record, good for him. He's a good guy.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sacramento A's now.
Oh God, Jesus! Can you guys real quick? I'm not sure if I said this on the last episode or two ago. Can you believe we're gonna have 2 major league teams playing in minor league baseball parks as their home ballpark this year?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And both of those teams just happen to be teams that might be relocating.
Well, one unfortunately is playing in there because not too fault of them because of a natural disaster. So that's not their fault. The other one is just basically burning every bridge on the way out. And of course, now their president is is resigning for, we don't need to get into that because we're not an Oakland A's podcast. But the point is, we have one of the more beautiful ballparks in baseball, so we should be thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyways, we hope you guys enjoyed this epic Rockies podcast tonight. We're looking forward to what the season will have for us moving forward. And again, we have a few more weeks until we start getting ready for spring training, start rolling out our predictions and our roster previews, that sort of thing. But if you haven't followed us on Instagram, X, or Threads, go ahead and follow us. Our links are in the description, and also you can just check it out here on the graphic at Rockies Now. And if you want to follow Tom, Adam, or myself, it's in our names right under the handle there. Also, if you listen to our podcast, if you enjoy it, please rate us on there on Spotify and Apple Podcast. If you want to listen to our audio podcast, just go ahead and to Spotify and Apple Podcast, and they're right there for you. On behalf of myself, Tom, and Adam, we would like to thank you for listening to this edition of the Rockies Now podcast. And as always, go Rockies.